Mr. Secretary, I don't hate anybody. I look for grace wherever I can find it. And I certainly don't hate you. My chairman talked about the woolly mammoths in the room, and I'm glad he brought that up. The chairman's immigration bill was negotiated by two members of my party, Senator Langford and Senator McConnell, and I don't speak for either one. They're both good men. The chairman said that the Republicans who negotiated his bill trusted you and wanted you there. And I'm not doubting his word. It gives me no joy to say this, but most Republicans don't trust you. And a vast majority of the American people don't trust you. That's why you've been impeached. Now, my Democratic colleagues are going to try to sweep your impeachment under the rug and violate 200 years of Senate precedent in doing it. I don't think that they will be able to sweep the issue, maybe your impeachment, but not the issue, under a rug as big as the United States of America. Again, it gives me no joy in saying this. I think well more than a majority of the American people think that as a result of your behavior and President Biden's behavior, our southern border is an open, bleeding wound. I think they believe that our southern border is chaotic. I think a vast majority of the American people believe that a lot of it is political. I think a vast majority of the American people believe that it is chaotic by design, and that all of this is intentional. And I think while a vast majority of the American people who don't trust you believe in legal immigration, they don't believe in illegal immigration. And they think you do. And they think President Biden does. And they think that's why the border is open. And they think that your attitude and President Biden's attitude is that while they may be poorer under President Biden, that they're stupid enough to believe you and the president when you say that it's not your problem. I think that needed to be said. Isn't it a fact, Mr. Secretary, that the number of illegal immigrants that you and the president allow into our country counts for congressional district reapportionment?
Senator, I'm not sure I understand your question, but I can surely share with you that I disagree with its phrasing.
Isn't it true, Mr. Secretary, that the number of illegal immigrants that you and President Biden have allowed into our country counts for allocating electoral votes?
Same answer.
Okay. You don't know?
I don't understand your question.
Never crossed your mind?
The notion, Senator, that we intend to allow illegal immigration is nothing short of preposterous.
So you do understand my
disrespectful,
question?
and if I may, it is disrespectful to the extraordinarily hard work that we perform, and far more importantly, that the personnel in the Department of Homeland Security and across this administration perform to stem illegal immigration, build lawful, safe, and orderly pathways, and invest in an working system. And we only wish that bipartisan legislation, about which I have not heard a critical term,
Mr. President, Mr.
would have
Secretary, you're
passed.
using up my time. You do this every single time. You do this every single time. And it's a fact, and you know it, and I know it, that the more people you allow into our country illegally, the more people are counted for reapportionment. And the more people that you allow into our country illegally, the more people are counted for allocating electoral votes. Now, maybe that's a coincidence, but that's a fact. And you know that. And you've done nothing for 4 years. Nada. Zero.
Absolutely false.
Zilch. And in fact, the only people I know in this country who are better off today than they were 4 years ago are illegal immigrants. And that's as a result of your policy. I don't hate you for it. I don't hate anyone, but that's why you've been impeached. And my colleagues may try to cover it up. They're going to try to cover it up. But they can't cover up the facts. I've gone over my time. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Peters. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Mayorkas. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, General, for being here. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
I read this somewhere. I don't remember who said it, but I wrote it, but I remember it. It was once observed that a parent who stops loving their children, if a parent stops loving their children, the children will not stop loving the parent. The children will stop loving themselves. I know we can agree that we should encourage parents to be involved in their kids' lives.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we can agree that we should encourage parents to make their kids do their homework.
Yes, although there's sometimes some resistance to that.
Right, right. And to make sure they get sleep at night so they can be ready for school.
Yes.
Here's what I've always been confused about. Didn't you understand the chilling effect that it would have to parents when you issued your directive, when you directed your criminal divisions and your counterterrorism divisions to investigate parents who were angry at school boards and administrators during COVID?
So, Senator, if you just give me a moment to put the full context, I did not do that. I did not issue any memorandum directing the investigation of parents who were concerned about their children. Quite to the contrary, the memorandum that you're talking about says at the very beginning of the memorandum that vigorous public debate is protected by the First Amendment. And the kind of concerns that you're talking about are, as expressed by parents, are of course completely protected. The memorandum was aimed at violence and threats of violence against a whole host of school personnel. It was not aimed at parents making complaints to their school board. And it came in the context of a whole series of other kinds of violent threats and violence against other public officials.
Let's walk through this. Your directive to your criminal division and your counterterrorism division came in a response to a letter from the National School Boards Association, did it not?
In part to the letter and in part to news reports of violence and threats of violence.
And the National School Board Association said these parents ought to be investigated under the Patriot Act as potential domestic terrorists.
And you'll notice, Senator, that I said nothing like that.
I understand, but that's what the letter said.
There was a reference to that in the letter,
Right.
something I disagree with.
And your employees helped them write the letter, didn't they?
I don't know anything to suggest that that's true.
I
No,
think
don't.
it is true.
Well,
And the White House helped them write that letter, didn't they?
I don't know. I have no knowledge about that, but certainly I don't know anything about my employees
And so-
helping write that letter.
So you get this letter from the National School Board Association asking you to investigate parents that your employees helped write and that the White House helped write, and you issue a directive to your criminal division and to your counterintelligence or counterterrorism division to start investigating parents who are angry. What did you think was going to happen?
Say again, Senator, that nothing in my memorandum says to investigate parents who are angry. Quite the opposite. It says that the First Amendment protects that kind of vigorous debate. The only thing we wanted was for an assessment to be made out in the field about whether federal assistance was needed to prevent violence and threats of violence.
Well, one of your that's not the way your department implemented your directive. One of your field offices actually opened an investigation. You set up a website and a hotline to report parents. And
I don't think we didn't set up a specific hotline about this. This was a reference to the
Democratic
FBI's hotline.
Party official contacted you. They said that some Republicans were inciting violence by expressing public displeasure with school districts' vaccine mandates. And one of your field offices opened an investigation, which is a permanent part of their record.
Senator, I don't know anything about the specific thing that you're talking about. They used to say in high school this is going to be on your permanent record. I don't believe there is any such thing with respect to this.
I think there is at the FBI, General, and you and I both know there is. There was a lady a mom in Michigan. She has a special needs kid, and the kid was doing pretty well. And she got upset with her local school board over its closures and virtual learning policies, and she went to the meeting. And she made an intemperate comment. She accused them of being a bunch of Nazis. Why would the FBI open an investigation of her?
Again, I don't know anything about the specifics of the case, but accusing people of being Nazis, while I find bad, is certainly not criminal. It's totally protected by the First Amendment. I've said that over and over again. This is not the first time we've discussed this.
That's not what your department did.
Well, this is about the third time I'm being asked about the same memorandum, and each time I've said, and I hope that the senators would go ahead and advise their constituents in the same way, that this is not what we do. We are not in any way trying to interfere with parents making complaints about the education of their children.
But don't you understand, General, and I believe you, but don't you understand that this looks like you were just giving in to the teachers' unions and politicizing the disagreement, the honest disagreements? I mean, we only, as a result of some of our school board policies, we only experienced the largest learning loss for our kids in modern history. Don't you think parents had a right to be upset?
Absolutely.
Instead of, you implemented, what's a threat tag?
I didn't implement the threat tag. What you're talking about there is a part of internal FBI operations.
Yeah.
As far as I can.
You directed your folks, though, to open threat tags on these parents and investigate them.
Yeah, I did not direct that. My understanding from testimony by the FBI is that when somebody makes a complaint and it involves, if somebody gives a tip that a school official is being threatened, then there's, in order to look at trends, they mark it as a tip involving a school official. They have the same set of threat tags with respect to a complaint that suggests somebody is making a threat against a Supreme Court justice. These aren't complaints These are tips of violence or threats of
A
violence.
threat tag on a parent for being concerned at a school board meeting?
It's not on the parent, it's not on whoever, it's on to indicate that a threat was made against, or at least alleged that a threat was made against, a school board member or a school official or a teacher or a school. Some of these turned out to be bomb threats.
Senator Kennedy, we're going to have a second round of questioning on behalf of
I understand.
Chairman Durbin, who has gone to vote. I'm going to call on.
You're blaming it on Durbin, huh? I understand. I apologize for
I
going
take
over.
full
Thank you, General.
responsibility.
Thank you. It's a pretty state where you live. It's a pretty state where you live.
Oh, man, it's heaven.
Senator Kennedy of Louisiana is recognized.
Candidly, gentlemen, there's not much that Congress can do to make President Xi stop his country from producing the precursor chemicals. I've met with President Xi personally in Beijing. I don't think it did much good. And candidly, there's not much the United States Congress can do to make President Lopez Obrador in Mexico stop the cartels. He knows what's going on. There are two things that we can do. First, we, meaning Congress, we can secure the border. It's an open, bleeding wound. And it is wide open. And it is wide open by design. I've seen it. Most of the members of this committee have. That's not what I want to talk about. The other thing that Congress can do is crack down on the dealers, not the addicts, Mr. DeFord, the dealers. Now, Mr. Urban, you see this pencil?
Yes, sir.
This pencil tip, the amount of fentanyl just in a pencil tip as represented by a pencil tip will kill you dead. Dead as fried chicken, Mr. DeFord. I hope that's Southern enough for you. You see this, 40 grams?
Yes, sir.
This will kill every man, woman, and child in Culpeper, Virginia. Not far from here. If you have this much fentanyl, you're a dealer. This is 400 grams. This will kill every man, woman, and child in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, you're a dealer. You're not holding this much fentanyl. You're not dealing. Now, 40 grams. This will get you, if you get caught, a minimum of 5 years. Okay? 400 grams, if you get caught with this much, enough to kill every man, woman, and child in Knoxville, and many more before you step on it, this will get you 10 years minimum. There's just one problem. We punish other drugs less severely than we do the most powerful drug, fentanyl. I mean, just look at it. 40 grams, 5 years. 400 grams for fentanyl, 10 years. Methamphetamines, 5 grams will get you 5 years. 50 grams will get you 10 years. Much less severely than fentanyl. We do the same thing for PCP. We do the same thing for crack cocaine. What you allow, gentlemen, is what will continue. Now, I support the Fentanyl Ratification Act that we've talked about today, but I also support something else. I support another bill, the Fairness in Fentanyl Sentencing Act. And it would lower the 5-year mandatory minimum threshold from 40 grams of fentanyl to 2 grams. And it would lower the 10-year mandatory minimum for 400 grams to 20 grams. And we ought to pass it too. What you allow is what will continue. I'm going to yield back, Chairman Brown, my 14 seconds to make up for my past transgressions.
It doesn't, but that's fine. Senator Warner of Virginia.